Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's session. Thanks for coming along. Today's presenter is Sean Fallon, and he's the Senior Resources Consultant with Bookery in Melbourne. And Bookery's been working really hard behind the scenes during the COVID-19 period to make sure that colleges and students have access to eBooks and online resources. So thanks for coming to present for us today, Sean.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for that intro. And thanks for everyone joining us today. I think we've got people from all over Australia and some people from New Zealand, which is pretty amazing. I'm talking to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. So before we begin, I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I'd also like to thank EA for hosting this and for Sophie for helping out and basically doing all the kind of confusing back-end work to make it run smoothly. As Sophie says, my name's Sean and I'm the Senior Resources Consultant with Bookery. Some of you will have had experience with Bookery before. We are an EA, excuse me. We are an EAL resources supplier for resources that are physical and, more crucially for this session and this day and age, digital. This Bookery has done quite a few things like this. We presented at NEAS. We've had people into our Fitzroy space to do presentations. This is the first one of these that I've personally done online. So it's quite a weird experience because all I can see is my own face, and I can't hear, the applause and the laughs that I assume I'm going to get during this thing. But to counteract that, I do have one audience member. I got myself a little Luke Skywalker, so I've got someone to look at when I talk to. And what's handy about him is he just sort of nods throughout, so he's very agreeable. And I'll just assume that he's groaning at my my terrible jokes as they come up. In terms of housekeeping, this session is going to be recorded, so it will be available from the EA webinar library. So if for whatever reason you need to duck out, or you have colleagues you think would like to see it, then yes, it's accessible from there, and you can pass it around. We'll also have a Q&A at the end. Now there should be, I think, on your screen a box for entering questions. So please, if anything comes up, just pop it in there and we'll get into that at the end. Sophie's going to be monitoring that. So if there's anything that she feels like she can answer or that I've brought up that she can sort out, she'll do that as we go along. But otherwise, we'll talk about those at the end. And I guess if you should find yourself having what Alfred Hitchcock used to call a refrigerator moment, where it's midnight and you go down to the fridge for a midnight snack and suddenly inspiration hits, I'll give you my contact. I'll give you Bookery's contact details at the end of the slides, so you can always send your questions to us. If I think of any more housekeeping things, I'll just interrupt myself and bring them up. But today we're going to talk about eBooks, and we're going to talk about using them. Some of you may have some experience with this technology. For some of you, this might be completely new. To be fair, I sort of went straight back to the start and started at the beginning. I think, obviously, during this incredibly tumultuous year, we've all found ourselves having to adapt to things a lot quicker than maybe we expected. So I'll try and give a bit of a run through and see if I can help you all along and give you some solutions, and also be honest about some of the considerations and issues that come along with adopting eBooks. So with that said, I'm going to vanish now and bring up some slides in a moment. Here we go. Okay, so eBooks and using them effectively. So for this session, we're going to talk about three main topics. So the first one is going to be issues facing teachers at the moment and things to consider with eBooks. These are interesting times, so the usual rules don't really apply, so we're going to talk about some of them. The second thing is the advantages and also the disadvantages of using eBooks. as there are some issues, as there are issues with everything. And finally, some tech support ideas and sources. So you're not alone. We've got ways that we can help you. Okay. Excuse me. So what are some of the issues facing teachers at the moment? So alongside testing and teaching, the basic process of simply getting books to students has caused huge roadblocks. In the past, an institution could order books and just dish them out to their students on the day that they started in the classroom, or like the reception can do it or anything like that. But obviously that's completely changed. Now with remote working, remote learning, delivery delays, isolation, the process has become vastly more difficult. So many places have pivoted to remote teaching, so like teaching via Zoom or Google Classroom or Teams or whatever video conferencing software you've chosen to use. But the missing piece, and the crucial missing piece, is putting the resources in the students' hands. So we've had a few different solutions to this. A couple of schools have approached us and asked us if they order the books direct to Bookery, can Bookery just send the books out individually to their students? And that's had a pretty good success rate. Another school in Sydney, they just opted to they opened one day a week and allowed the students to come in and collect the books, which was a bit of a, obviously taking in social distancing and things like that, quite a big job really. And for a lot of places, stuff like that's just completely unfeasible. So the obvious solution there is eBooks. However, as we all know, technical progress and schools are like distant cousins who meet every so often, and when they do, they don't really get along. So the other issue as well during this time is, like I said earlier, having to adapt so quickly. So there isn't enough time for just like onboarding and training, and also dealing with teething issues. So whereas usually we would go for sort of a trial and error approach, we now have to simply do and succeed. So what do you need to consider when you're looking at eBooks? So I guess where to begin? Now, I would love to sit here and say that there are no issues, and that not only will eBooks improve your life during this pandemic, they will actually improve your entire life. They will make you a better driver. They will intensify your taste buds, and they will make it so the last season of Game of Thrones wasn't so terrible. However, that is not the case. They are technology, and all technology comes with little hiccups and procedures that you need to deal with. To go slightly off topic, while I was literally writing and creating this PPT this week, I managed to spill a bottle of water on my computer, which was a whole drama, and I'm not over it yet. But that's neither here nor there. Technology presents its challenges. But with eBooks, unlike me spilling a bottle of water on a computer, you're not alone in the void. Okay, so each publisher will offer their assistance, whether on their website or via their customer service numbers. You'll also have your book supplier, who can be contacted and who will solve your issues for you as they arrive. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about those considerations, because maybe there are some things we can fix here and now rather than later. So the first one really is purchase. So I'm going to slow down. I can feel myself going too fast, so sorry. So straight off the bat, how do you get ebooks? So first off, I need to just make you aware that not every title has been made into an ebook. Now, some of them will be flipbooks or PDFs, and others are just only still offered as paper books. Most of the biggest and most used textbooks, however, have been adapted into eBooks, but it is a good idea to sort of give yourself as much prep and as much lead time as possible to find that out, especially because lead time for delivery can be 24 to 48 hours. So first off, you need to know if the book exists as an ebook, and also you need to give that time for it to arrive. With the lead time thing, I think it is very tempting to fall into the trap of thinking that it's like ordering the newest Stephen King ebook when it's not. It's quite different. It's not a case of I press the confirm button and instantly get it. You do have to sort of give yourself that time. So don't sort of 15 minutes before your lesson think, oh, brilliant, I'll just press the button and I'll have the codes lickety split, because it won't happen. So make sure that would be one of my main things today. Just make sure you are prepped and give yourself as much time as humanly possible. And then also, unlike ordering a Stephen King ebook, there are some further processes to go through. So first off, so for ordering, you can order, so to use Bookery as an example, you can order via phone or via email or do it on our website. And my tip for here definitely would be to double check all your ISBNs and orders to confirm that you are ordering ebooks and not bookbooks. Because if you've ordered books and you've done an ISBN, it's very easy to get those incorrect, and it's very easy to fall into the trap of mixing up an ebook and a paper book. Okay, so access. So when you've ordered your book and you get your codes sent to you, they will come in a spreadsheet, or they can come in the body of an email. That is up to you, however you request it. And then once you've got those codes, what do you do next? So if you consider the humble physical book, if you want to use it, you just use it. You pick it up and you open it and you're good to go. With an ebook, that requires a little bit more nuance, and each publisher is slightly different. So to help this process along, when you order your codes, we'll also send through, or your book supplier should send through to you, instructions for how to do it publisher by publisher, because it's again, this is going to be something I'm going to say quite a lot this evening or this afternoon. Everything here is going to be case by case, book by book, title by title, school by school, publisher by publisher, but we'll come back to that. So once you've ordered your codes in an email or in a spreadsheet, and you've got your instructions, you will then need to download an app or go to a website. So the apps are downloaded freely and easily. The website will just simply require a login. And then once you've done that, you'll find a page like this, enter your access code, and Bob's your uncle, you're the mayor of eBook City. For others, there isn't an app, like I say, and it's just a website, but it's pretty much the same principle. I guess the thing is, you have to sort of do these things, create an account. You know what, actually, bear with me. I have a whole thing in a moment that's going to talk you through this whole thing. So give me a moment. I've got one more thing to say. I want to talk about expiry. So one crucial part of a physical book is that it can last a really long time, whereas an ebook is like if a physical book had a Harry Potter curse put on it, so that after a certain amount of time it simply vanishes. And that is a little bit melodramatic, which is something I'm quite good at being, but some ebooks will come with an expiry date. So the best bet is to always make sure you know what that date is, and make sure that you ask your book supplier what that is. Because in some cases, again, as I said before, it's going to differ from book to book. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 3 months. So that's definitely something you want to know before you give the books out, just in case. So let's actually go through from scratch how to do it. So one moment. So first off, you've ordered your books and you've received an email from your book supplier. I have redacted some names here to protect the innocent, but this is essentially what it would look like. So in the body of the email, you've got the instructions for where to go to get your app and what to do next. You've also got the instructions attached here, so you want to print them off and put them up somewhere for your other teachers. And here you're going to have that spreadsheet full of codes. So for this example, I've used a National Geographic learning book, and they run their whole thing through a site called Vital Source. So your spreadsheet will look like this. You've got your titles here, ISBNs, and then all of your codes. So it's obviously one code per book. It's not sort of like a bulk situation. So once you've got those codes, if we go back to this first email, this link here is going to be important, because once you've put that link in, it's going to take you to here. So on this part here, on the top row, you have the links for getting the apps. So if your students are going to be using the eBooks on their mobile phone, on their tablet, we haven't actually tested if they work on like Apple Watches yet, but I don't think we're going to need to. Kindle Fire as well as an option. And then down here is all of the desktop links. So to continue this, I just clicked on the PC one and I downloaded the Microsoft, the Windows app, sorry. So I probably actually should explain all of the weird animations as well. So prior to working at Bookery, I was an EAL teacher for over 10 years. And one aspect, when I worked in Istanbul, I was a primary school teacher. And one of my favorite parts of the job was making funny PowerPoints for my students. And it appears that I never grew out of that. So bear with me, because some of these animations get a bit weird. So anyway, back on topic. You open the app, and this is what you come on. You've got email and username and password. Now, if you don't have those, you can just click on Create an Account, which will take you to this screen. Very easy. First name, last name, email, password, security question. You don't have to be updated, but you just need to agree to the team's terms of service, and then you're all set up, and that's it. You'll get an email that you'll just need to verify your own email, and then you can log in. So when you log in, you'll come to a screen that will have this part where it says redeem codes. So once again, just to clarify, this is just for Vital Source for National Geographic Learning, but to be honest, publisher by publisher, they're mostly the same. It will basically be download an app, log in, enter your codes. There'll be different windows, different sites, different names, but the process will be fairly similar. So we've got our codes from before, we enter one in, and that brings us to this. So this is our library. So every time that you enter in one of your ebook codes, the book will appear here. And you'll notice, as I said before, there is an expiry date. So this one here, this Keynote book, is going to last until the 28th of April next year. But again, always clarify, make sure to find out how long the books are going to last for. So for this example here, I clicked on Pathways. And this is what your ebook actually looks like. This is what the student will see on their computer or on their tablet or on their phone. All of these things have been adapted so they will work on your phones, your devices, your tablets, your computer. The text will change size and things like that. In the case of flipbooks and PDFs, less adaptive, but will still be fine. But the ebooks are very specifically tailored for that. So this is just a page picked at random, and what you'll find, which is very cool, is by the tasks you see here, you've got this bit of paper and a pen. So if you were to click on that, that would bring up this. So then it focuses onto the task then. So it was a reading task. So down here, you've actually got the reading passage with pertinent vocabulary highlighted. And then the task from the book is here. And your students can actually enter their answers onto these lines. They can edit it. Which this is one of those things where, like, I'm personally one of those people with absolutely shocking handwriting. So this would have been incredible for me at school because, yeah, one of the main complaints, my teachers couldn't read a single thing I wrote because I have terrible handwriting, but this is great. So another interactive element as well is if you find an area where there's a writing passage and it has a pair of headphones like this, you can click on them and the book will actually read itself to your students. So for students who are having issues with, say, reading comprehension or pronunciation, this is fantastic. And it's a great way to sort of deal with some of those kind of funky English words where they're just shoved in a load of letters that don't need to be in there. And it's just a great tool to help students, especially for, like I say, reading and listening comprehension. The other thing as well, or the final thing, if you're in a section that involves video, where you've got this little play button next to the thing there, you click on that and the video will appear, and then you can play it. So it removes the need for your students having DVDs or having to download the video files or anything like that. So they've got them there right at their fingertips, which is pretty incredible. Okay, moving on. So the advantages and disadvantages of using eBooks. So what are the advantages? Well, instantaneously, I think the thing I just said was pretty cool. Having that built-in audio and video. So admittedly, like I said before, flipbooks and PDFs aren't going to have that sort of thing. And also not every book is going to have that. So again, it is going to be case by case, book by book, title by title, etc., etc. So again, when you are talking to your book supplier, ask them, because they will know and they'll have that answer and they'll be able to tell you, because it is a big difference between having the audio there and having to supply it yourself. A lot of publishers will have the audio and video downloadable on their website. So they have so when you do have a book that doesn't have it built in, there are ways to find it. But again, I can't speak for every publisher or every book or anything like that. But for the most part, it's pretty much covered. With the interactive books, it does remove the need for the teacher to play the MP3 track or the CD. One crucial advantage as well during this time and this pandemic is with an ebook, you can maintain social distance or maintain distance from your students, which obviously is important when you can't have them in the classroom anymore. We supported Hawthorne English Language Centre recently in Melbourne. So they began using eBooks to actually teach students offshore with great success, an act that would have been completely impossible without using eBooks. And once it became clear how extensive this quarantine was going to be, we found with different timeframes, some schools instantaneously were ready for it, some took a couple of weeks, but a lot of them changed from classrooms to class Zooms. And I am sorry about that joke. Okay, moving on. So in order to do this, in order to have these Zoom classrooms, so you're going to need Zoom or Google Classrooms or Teams, or like I said before, whatever your choice of video conferencing software. And then you just need to be able to deliver the lessons. So we've got the sort of ebook part sorted out, but what a lot of schools are doing is they're using their video conferencing software, and they are partnering it with international interactive whiteboard software. So that way they can basically create a digital classroom or a real classroom digitally through Zoom. Now, if you're not familiar with interactive whiteboard software, or you've only ever used it on an interactive whiteboard, it is essentially, it's like an ebook, but with more features. It's definitely designed solely for teachers. So rather than you having to teach over Zoom and just holding the book up, if that's how it's done, with the interactive whiteboard software, you install it on the computer, share your screen, and then it's all there. You can play the audio, you can play the video, the answers are in there. There's teacher's notes for you. And it just removes a little bit more of the stress. And because you're sharing your screen, you can just teach in your pajamas. So surely living the dream. So the way you kind of have to do it is you have your video conferencing plus interactive whiteboard plus eBooks. Some places that we've spoken to have found ways around the distancing and the lockdown by having, like we've sent books specifically or individually to students. Or like I say, there was that school in Sydney that opened for 1 day a week. But there are a lot of situations where this isn't feasible. If you have too many students, your students are too spread out, or your students are overseas, or any other of the myriad problems that COVID-19 has now introduced us to. eBooks sort of take that pain away and allow teachers to just email your students the books and not miss a step. Okay, so what are some of the disadvantages? Well, depending on how remote your students are, can affect the usability of an ebook. Now, again, this is going to sound like I'm a broken record, but this is very much a case-by-case thing. And there is like a few very specific problems that have emerged from some of our users and some of the research we've been doing before we even we even started down this ebook road. So because some of the titles require accessing the ebooks via a website and using them in a web-based manner, some schools and institutions who have been sending ebooks to their students overseas are running into problems with internet access. Chinese firewalls are pretty unforgiving, and even some areas of Australia have pretty patchy and inconsistent internet still. So these are sort of issues and impediments that you can face with an ebook that you never would with a book, you know. But these have been few and far between. A lot of the ebooks are app-based, so once the student has the app, and once that's usually enough for it to all just run smoothly, which of course is famous last words, especially when it comes to education technology. I can't speak for everyone, but I'm sure I know a lot of teachers who have had the experience where you plan a full class and it's a lesson plan that you would hang in the Louvre, and then you get into your classroom and the projector just dies, or your computer dies, or something like that. You know, these are the risks we take as teachers, I guess. Also as well, outside of those sort of technical problems and the patchy internet, any issues that do arise are going to be, once again, case by case. And they will depend on the title, the delivery method, the location of the student, the publisher, the device the student's using, the internet security in their home, in their country, in the institution that they're working from, anything, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But crucially, I'm presenting these problems because the publishers know them and the booksellers know them and I know them. So we're here to help you out. And if you face issues, you obviously have places to turn. I guess the other thing to remember as well is that in your schools, you will have teachers who have never encountered this kind of technology before, and also new teachers who have had sort of bad luck with their starting date, really, to start teaching in 2020, one of the weirdest years in recent memory. And that will cause like trepidation, and that will cause nervousness. But with those teachers who, and yourself, if you find yourself nervous and thinking and full of apprehension about, is this going to work and what we're going to do? Luckily for you, you know, we are offering tech support. Oh, what's happened here? Oh no, I'm just kidding. That was one of the terrible jokes I warned you of. So with tech support, so tech support for teachers, at the risk of making what is possibly the understatement of the century, technology can present challenges. To be honest, personally, every second that this webinar continues without a technological glitch is a real gift from the gods, and also a gift of the hard work of Sophie O'Keefe and EA for working behind the scenes. There are always going to be possible issues, and that is where your book suppliers and people like myself come into our own. There are phone numbers, email addresses, online tutorials, website guides, and I'm always happy to do Zoom trainings, and my team as well. Chances are, if you know of Bookery but you don't know who I am, you will know one of my colleagues. You'll know Katerina, or you'll know Marie, or you'll know Matt, or any of the others, Jen, Paul, James, Martin, Ian, and all of those people are happy to help out in any way that they can. And we're always happy to do, once the lockdown's over, we'll be able to come out to the schools and help people. But for now, we're always happy to contact people on Zoom. The one thing I will sort of say as well is, again, to say, obviously, it'll be case by case, school by school. But if your apprehension is based, if your apprehension on moving to eBooks is based on worrying about being left high and dry with 50 students wanting to know why their logins won't work, you won't be. The book supplier is there to help you, and it is literally their jobs. So the other issue will come from, or the other tech support issue, I guess, will come from students. So this might be possibly controversial, and this is really where it would be nice to have a crowd to just kind of gauge if I'm on the right track or not. But from my experience speaking to educators, speaking to teachers I know, speaking to my wife who's an educator, the idea of the digital native or the net generation is it's vastly over exaggerated. People not in the know, I guess, talk about modern students as though they are somehow half human and half machine. But everyone I've spoken to, when I go on visits to schools and I speak to directors of studies and academic managers and so on, they all basically say that no, their students use phones a lot, they use tablets a lot, but it doesn't make them Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. The assumption is that students can be given any sort of technology and instantly know their way around it, which might be true if they're just messing around on an iPad, but logging into an LMS or even performing just like a quick Google search can be a whole thing. Students, as well as anyone else, need to be orientated, and they need to be shown the steps before they can use a thing, use this technology, and they are going to approach it in the same way as any new user would. So they'll need the same support. But again, all of these questions can be funneled back to us. Like, I can't speak for every bookseller, but Bookery has sourced and created helpful guides, and we can send those out to students and teachers for all the major publishers and their ebook content. I mean, after all, this is uncharted territory for a lot of people, for teachers, for students, for booksellers, and even the publishers. And much like initially with COVID-19, we are sort of all in this together. To sort of wrap it up, my final key idea, or my final tip I would give you for using ebooks effectively, is simply to be prepared. Consider the 6 Ps. Proper preparation and planning prevents poor performance. It's hard to find that prep time, I know, and I opened by saying, that's one of the big issues of this, finding that prep time. But if you can get some time to play around with a sample ebook, or get a Bookery team member on the phone and ask them a million questions, it will definitely pay off when you're on the Zoom camera in your classroom doing the business. Okay, and now let's have some questions. So I think I'm going to press this button and see what happens.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Sean.
No.
That was really entertaining, as well as informative, so thank you. There is a question already, and if other people have questions, please do type them in. I'll give you just, a couple of minutes to do that now. The first question, Sean, is
Mhm.
do you pay for the student ebooks per student or just per book?
Per student, or I guess per book. Like it'd be the same as if you were buying physical books. I know it wouldn't because you could give those away. Yeah, so it's per student. So if you have 20 students, you buy 20 codes.
Yep, so it's the code that you'll receive.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, great. So someone's asking if you've had any experience with ebook platforms such as Kotobi, because this person is interested in making ebooks.
Not really, no. Like I mean, we know I guess we know the publishers and the publishers know the people. I have seen people use programs to make paperback books for showing off poetry and their own like short stories and stuff, but I have never used any of those myself. But please get in touch and we can always do a bit of research for you and find out.
Okay, next question. Are there any online free samples that publishers make available to give people a taste of what an ebook looks like?
Yes, that's pretty easy to do. I'm not sure if you can actually just get them straight from like publishers' websites, but we can always get them on your behalf. The publishers are very generous with this sort of thing, so that's pretty easy to do. It would definitely be worth going to the publisher's website to check, but as far as I know, no, the best way to do it is just to ask your bookseller and they will do it on your behalf.
Okay, someone's asking if there are any ebooks which work more reliably in China.
I would say no, I don't. Well, not that I don't. That's a tough question, actually, because I'm not 100% sure because not all of them have kind of been used over there, if that makes any sense. So it's hard to sort of lock down a definitive answer with that. Chances are, I would say the ones that are more app-based would probably be a better bet, but then I can't really speak to which ones exactly work. But that is a good one. At the end of the slides, there is contact details. So that person who asked that question should definitely get in touch and I'll do a bit of research and find out for them.
Okay, thank you. Another question. Are Active Teach versions and ebooks sold as sets?
No, they are separate things because they're separate programs. The Active Teach, as far as I know, still comes as a physical, as a USB or a disk, whereas the ebooks are codes, so they're totally separate.
Okay, someone's asking if any IELTS titles are available in ebooks, and I guess more generally, how would people find out which titles are available as ebooks?
So in terms of IELTS titles that are, off the top of my head, I can tell you that Ready for IELTS from Macmillan is, and Cambridge, what's it called? It's one of the Cambridge ones, but only at the lowest level, only at 4.5 to 5 or 4 to 5. The best way is, to be honest, email your bookseller and ask them. The Bookery website has a pretty comprehensive list, but it is a constantly evolving thing. So every couple of days we get more information that there's more arriving. So my best bet is just simply ask us and we can tell you. And if the person who asked that question, if you have sort of specific titles you're looking for, please just get in touch and to ask us and we can give you a full comprehensive list.
Sean, am I correct in thinking that a lot of the book retailers are kind of releasing ebook versions as we speak of their different titles to keep up with the demand?
Again, case by case. Some places were
Okay.
totally ready to go. Other places have they've seen the popularity of a title and they've adapted it to be, like I said before, like a PDF or a flip book, with the intention that it will be a full ebook maybe next year or at the end of the year. Most of the any publisher, like their newest titles, there will be an ebook version, and then there's sort of like the slightly older ones are sort of some are, some aren't, and then the much older ones aren't.
All
But
right.
we can definitely, with depending on the popularity and depending on the demand, I guess, we can always approach the publishers and sort of see what we can work out.
Okay, great. Another question for you. Are there workbooks included in addition to the student and teacher ebooks?
Yep, in some cases you can get them as bundles and you'll get the workbook and the student book together. In some cases it's separate, and in some cases you can download the workbook online. And then in some more cases, it's part of the sort of like the LMS program. So for National Geographic Learning, you have, I want to say My ELT, but I might be mixing that up with, no, I am mixing that up, that's Pearson. So with National Geographic, you have like an online workbook, which is all based online, and that's another program that you log into. So again, it's all kind of case by case, book by book. It just depends on which one you're looking for. That wasn't a very good answer, but yeah, it was very expansive answer, I guess. But yes, they are available, but it'll differ.
That's fine. It's complicated, so I'm sure the answer just reflects that. Someone's asking if you can recommend any leveled reader or abridged novel ebooks that students can access now. So maybe not the titles, but the series or something like that.
Yep. So the Macmillan graded readers, dependent, they have a bit of a thing going at the moment where if you're currently using the paper versions, you're able to get free versions digitally. I think some of the, it's a bit of a tough one to kind of like specifically think of exactly what is. That one is really a bit of a slow stream, the readers. Again, in terms of, it depends on demand. If there's a particular title that you are currently using and you're using them now, using a lot of them, you're going to keep using them, then it's more likely that we'll be able to work out getting them adapted into some sort of digital form. But at the moment, readers are, it's not a huge amount of them at the moment.
Thanks. And there's been a question about ebooks that can be accessed in India. Are there any?
As far as I know, the one, pretty much all the ones that we've been dealing with at the moment have been fine over there. That hasn't really come up as an issue. It's been the main issue sort of been the Chinese web security. India, I can't off the top of my head think of any issues we've had.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? That's it for the ones that have come through for now.
Okay. Well, as I said before, I will give the next slide is our contact details. So please, I can just pop those on the screen. If you think of any other questions, in fact, I can do that right now.
Yeah, just pop them up.
Oh, hold on a mo. Is that it? Have they appeared? Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you make a note of those, maybe you'll think of a question on the drive home from work or whatever. Then yeah, just send it through. Anyone who asked a question and wants to sort of follow up, please get in touch and we'll help you out. That's what the team's there for.
All right, thank you. And thank you so much for today's presentation. It was, as I said, informative and entertaining. I actually found it really useful to hear about some of the pitfalls that are avoidable with ebooks firsthand from you. So thank you very much for sharing those with us. And thanks to everyone for coming.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.